Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this webinar on jobs on skills for the energy transition. My name is Katharina Krell, and I'm a thematic expert for low carbon economy at the EUREC Europe Policy Learning Platform, and I'm your moderator this afternoon. A few introductory words on the system. We are recording this webinar. It will be put online, and you can visit it again and share it afterwards. All the presentations will be shared as well on the event follow-up page. You will be emailed the link directly in your inbox. The audience cannot speak, but you can submit questions. I invite you to discover your webinar control panel on the right-hand side. At the bottom, it says questions. There you can type questions, and we will take them and read them to the presenters and use them in the discussion. We can also interact with us through polls, as you will see. In the chat, we can communicate, and in the handout tabs, you can discover documents that we are inviting you to discover. Okay, I would like to introduce my team. I'm bringing you this webinar together with Marco Citelli, who is a thematic expert who's working with me, and Lotte van Meil, who is our web expert, who's responsible for all the technical setup. So there we are. Now, 2 words about who is behind the organization of this webinar. The webinar is organized in the framework of the EUREC Europe Policy Learning Platform. And well, the Policy Learning Platform is the second pillar of the EUREC Europe program. And we accompany all the projects with interregional learning services. We have 4 services, and they are available for all the 4 topics covered in the EUREC Europe program. I think many of you have already joined 1 or 2 webinars. So today I will just focus on 1 service. This is the expert support service. And you can there discover 3 types of individual expert support services. Marco? Next page. Okay. There are 3 expert services. They are in growing order of complexity. The easiest is a policy help desk, which is just you submit a question and you receive a written email reply by one of us. Then there is a matchmaking and the peer reviews. These are services that are more complex because we involve peers from different regions to respond to a challenge that you are posing to us. So the matchmaking service is a 2-hour online meeting, and we organize 2 or 3 peers from other regions. This is available for any type of organization, and the peer review is 2 days. So this is much more complex. And it's our premium service only reserved for regional and local authorities. I want to zoom a little bit into the matchmaking because I think this is the least used. Next slide. As you can see, we have not done so many matchmakings. The matchmaking, so it's 2-hour meeting, and for instance, an organization can say, I want to look further into skill development and I want to know one of the good practices that our experts are presenting today. So following this webinar, we can, for instance, organize a matchmaking to look much more in depth in all the details of a good practice. So next slide. You can see that we have not done many matchmakings. This is why I want to bring this to your attention. We have done only 11 so far, and the last one I have done last week for the region of Western Macedonia on resource and energy efficiency support schemes. They absolutely were thrilled by a good practice in Hessen, in Germany, on SME support schemes. So we invited the relevant experts and another expert from the University of Gävle, and we looked into really how to design support schemes. And it's very hands-on. You can see in the takeaways, they're very concrete things that are coming out of these matchmakings. So just want to raise your awareness to it. It's available to any of you. Please use it, ask us about it. Okay, enough from the introductory words. Now, why are we talking about skills for the energy transition? I think it is clear that behind the dominant topic of COVID-19, which is occupying the news, there is something really, really remarkable which is going on in Europe. And what we do is we witness a flood of initiatives, laws, and fundings without precedents turned towards transforming Europe into a green economy. The von der Leyen Commission is turning out one act after the other in line with the Green Deal. It's really hard to keep up reading, let alone implementing it. It's a lot of new obligations, and we can certainly speak about a momentum that is building up here. So we are sure that we are going to face higher targets for renewables and for energy efficiency. Therefore, we must act now to make sure that we have the labor force that is equipped with the adequate training and skills to plan and build all the renewable energy installations that we need to identify and harness the potential energy savings and to provide expert advice to citizens, companies, and politicians alike. So in fact, the additional demand for skilled people will be such that we think every region should be taking measures right now to increase the training capacity, the upskilling and the reskilling capacity in their territory, or else we will see a shortage of labor, which comes with higher costs for the energy transition, poor quality implementation, and, which is worst, those who don't have the right skills, they risk being left behind unemployed, especially as sectors like mining and coal are being phased out. So therefore, we're talking about skills for the energy transition today. And here is our agenda. I invite the speakers to turn on their cameras so that the audience can see you. And I introduce in order of appearance. The first presentation will be made by my colleague Marco Citelli. I will give you a brief introduction into the policy framework and findings in our recent policy brief on the same topic. Then we have 3 good practices. The first comes from Croatia, from Velimir Šegon, from the Northwest Croatia Regional Energy Agency, and he's talking about a national program to educate trainers and to train workers in the construction sector. The second presentation comes to us from Spain, from Ruth Borrego Andrade from the Andalusian Energy Agency, and Laura Ramos, whose camera is not working, but who is with us anyway, from ECOOO. And they're going to explain a training scheme where unemployed have been reskilled so that they become installers of solar panels. And last but not least, we have Nathalie Richet from the Association of European Renewable Energy Research Centers, EUREC, with us, who will explain us about university-level education for the energy transition. So you can switch off your cameras, and I'm heading over to my colleague Marco for his introductory presentation. Marco, over to you.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Good.
Thank you very much, Katharina, for giving me the floor, and thank you everybody for joining us this afternoon for this webinar. So my task today will be to briefly present this policy brief that we released in February this year on skills for the energy transition. So why this policy brief? Because we know that in the Interreg Europe community, there is a lot of interest in the issue of renewable energies, energy efficiencies, and of skills development in particular. So what do we do with this work? We try to shed light on training programs teaching skills for the energy transition at all levels. We showcase a number of good examples of dedicated structures supporting skill development in this area. And we explore the role of skills for awareness raising and initial energy advice for citizens and SMEs alike. In this policy brief, you can also find information on the relevant policy framework at EU level, and also information on the EU financial support that will be available for the next programming period. So this is my next slide. here we talk about the current EU policy framework. So as you know, when it comes to climate policies, we are now at a very important moment, because the European Parliament and the Council of the European Union, meaning the governments of the 27 member states, have just reached an agreement on the European climate law. The European climate law, it's a legislative act which is very important because it translated into legally binding targets the goals that have been announced by the Commission in the European Green Deal at political level. And I'm referring in particular to the climate neutrality goal by 2050 and to the goal of enhancing the contribution of the European Union as a whole to the implementation of the Paris agreements for 2030, with an increased target that moves from 40% to at least 55% greenhouse emission reduction. So this new goal for 2030 implies that a series of sectoral legislation will need to be aligned. And among the proposals that will be unveiled by the Commission in this regard by the June, later in the year, in June, we will have for sure a proposal to open the Renewable Energy Directive, the Energy Efficiency Directive. There will be a revision of the Directive on Alternative Fuels Infrastructure. There will be a reopening of the Energy Performance of Building Directive. And also we will see a proposal to amend the CO2 standards for cars and vans, which are very important because they have a mechanism to foster the deployment of zero and low emission vehicles. So stronger climate ambition, enhanced energy targets, they go hand in hand with more jobs, more green jobs. These can be a challenge for all policymakers and especially for the local and regional level. And it's even more of a challenge today because of the magnitude of the goal that we have to reach. For example, climate neutrality by mid-century. I put here a quote from the International Labour Organization and the European Centre for the Development of Vocational Education and Training, which is, I think, very interesting. It says that skills are not a pure servant of the economy, expected to react and adjust to any change. It is very true today because of the challenges that we have to face. And this also implies that there are challenges, as I said, for the local and regional level, because at that level on the ground, there must be planning and investments for making sure that on the ground, on the territories, there is the right amount of people, trained people with the necessary set of skills and capabilities to enable the transformation that we need to see if we really want to be serious about reaching the goals that are being agreed upon at European level. So the question is how to foster energy skills for the energy transition in your region. According to the analysis that we have made and that we have reflected in this policy brief, the core ingredients, I would say, are four, and they are training programs, dedicated structures, skill for awareness raising and initial advice, and strategies to create demand for the newly acquired skills by the workforce. This is a list of the, just a plain list of the good practices that we cover in the policy brief, and also the Interreg Europe projects that we feature in this work. Some of these good practices, there will be the object of the presentation that will come after mine, like CROSKILLS and the EUREC Renewable Energy Masters. So we group them into these four categories that we have identified, and that for us are the core pillars of successful strategies to foster skills for the energy transition at the regional, local and regional level. Very briefly, I describe here some of the policy recommendations that we were able to draw on the basis of the assessment of good practices that we have made. And for example, when it comes to training programs, we have seen that successful good practices often contemplate and an exercise to identify the presence of skill gaps, and on the basis of this assessment, they propose upskilling and reskilling schemes and programs to precisely respond and fill the gaps that have been identified. Another very, let's say, common trait that we have seen is the integration of energy efficiency and renewable energy skills into vocational education and training programs. We have seen that a success factor for these training modules is flexibility and innovation. So the public bodies, for example, who offer these trainings, they have to offer them in a very flexible way to respond to the needs of the workers and their schedules. And another very important thing is that training and certification schemes, for example, are carried out by trained professionals in accredited centers. That's also a common trait that we have identified, as well as we have seen that it's very important not to forget to address upskilling and reskilling along all value chains and across the different kind of workers. So this means that both blue-collar and white-collar workers should be targeted by specific training programs. And then when it comes to dedicated structures, we kind of realize that they come actually in every, I would say, form and shape. The most common structure is the one of the regional energy agency, which can really serve as a point of reference, as a one-stop shop, which combines the knowledge of the regulatory framework on renewables and energy efficiency, with also initiatives to promote training and energy advice. Another structure that could be useful for you to consider in your local context and regional context is the one of skill development center. We have seen that there are examples of skill development centers really functioning in Europe, which really push for the transfer of renewable energy and energy efficiency skills in different categories of workers. When it comes to awareness raising and initial advice, we have seen that successful good practices often entail educational programs to form a pool of trained professionals who have the capabilities to approach households, SMEs, explain the costs and benefits of renewables and energy efficiency, identify energy efficiency potential in households and SMEs in their operations, and also plan with the concerned persons if wanted, also long-term interventions to improve energy efficiency. We have seen that this particular professional figure can be embedded in regional strategies on sustainability. We have seen that the provision of targeted advice on energy issues can be as I said, given free of charge and can be embedded in this kind of strategies. And another viable solution that we have seen adopted in a different regional context consists in setting up networks of offices with the specific task of delivering energy advice. Delivering advice and also pushing for the installation of energy efficiency solutions with the purpose of also tackling connected issues such as energy poverty and all that comes with it, for example, poor health. Then when it comes to creating the demand in the market for the skills that have been transferred to the workforce, we have seen that there are multiple ways to do so. For sure, one possibility is adopting fiscal measures to boost, for example, works in the renovation works in the construction sector. But another viable solution that we have witnessed is the launch of calls for project proposals on energy efficiency, which targets specific sectors, and these we have seen that can be done thanks to ERDF co-financing and can also very effectively be done in compliance with EU state aid rules. So the mechanisms are multiple. The key is to find ways to make sure that there is a demand for jobs that require the skills on energy efficiency and renewables that have been transferred to the workforce thanks to training programs. So basically, this is an overview of what you can find inside of our policy brief. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marco. Yes, not only installers, energy auditors, but also people who can communicate and reach out and mobilize households and SMEs to take measures. These are sometimes forgotten. Huh? Yeah. Exactly. Good. I would like to launch a poll to the audience and see, do you think that your region must increase its training capacity for sustainable energy skills? And you can select one reply, just click on them. And so we would like to hear a little bit how you assess your own training capacity. Is it enough, or do you need to beef it up? Okay. We're having 101 attendees in the meantime. So this is quite a good topic that is drawing a lot of interest. And I have been seeing that we have a lot of attendance from Central and Eastern Europe, which is interesting and good. And maybe it shows where there is still a lot of demand. Lotte, let's close the poll. Oh, oui. Okay, so most of you think that at all levels there is a need to increase the training capacity for sustainable energy skills in your region. Okay, good. I think we can move on. Yes, but in certain areas, a few, and then good. Then let's lose no more time and discover some interesting skills training programs. I invite Velimir Šegon to turn on your camera and to share your slides and to deliver your presentation. The floor is yours, Velimir.
Thank you. Could you just confirm that you see my slides, my presentation?
Yes, all good, thank you.
Okay, perfect. We have rehearsed this before, but sometimes it doesn't work even if you rehearsed it before. Okay, thank you very much for this invitation. It's really a pleasure to hold this presentation. So we, the Northwest Croatia Regional Energy Agency, were partner in the Build to LC project within the Interreg Europe program. And then within this project, we identified many good practices, and one of them is the one which I'm going to present you today. So it's called CROSKILLS, and it's about lifelong training plan for building workers. Basically, this was a project financed through the Intelligent Energy Europe program. You can see the full name of the project here, and you can see the most important features of the project. So it started in September 2014, and it lasted for 36 months, so it's over. And the total budget of this project was a little bit more than 600,000 euros. So the partners of this project, we were not actually a partner, but here you can see the partners. It was coordinated by a Faculty of Civil Engineering, University of Zagreb, and there were 5 more Croatian partners, which is a School of Building and Crafts from city of Čakovec, then the Croatian Association of Thermal Facade Producers, a Regional Environment Center, Croatian Chamber of Civil Engineers, and Croatian Employment Surveys. So basically it was all key stakeholders to develop and implement a training program for construction workers. The motivation of the project, it's I guess it's similar to many other countries. You can see here some pictures of what happens when the construction workers are not properly trained, not qualified. you can see some damage, some improper work done. This is of course not good, and we all want to avoid that. So the motivation was a clear lack of qualified building sector workers in Croatia, especially focused on energy efficient retrofit and construction, a lack of institutions specialized in providing education schemes, a relatively weak market demand for low energy buildings. This was the situation in before this project, but this has a little bit changed now. But there was also a lack of national discussion of sharing information about this topic among relevant stakeholders on the needs and possibilities about building sector workers in Croatia. So the main objectives of this project, it was to develop testing and comprehensive training material in 6 priority areas, focused on 6 professions. So bricklayers, plasterers, roofers, carpenters, house painters, and prefabricated construction fitters. So all craftsmen and construction workers were targeted by this project. And the next project objective was the establishment of 6 training schemes and accreditation, qualification of training providers. So it was a train of trainers, basically, logic. It was about providing systematic approach to lifelong learning of Croatian building workers. And the last objective was the establishment of a national certification scheme for the 6 priority professions. So proper evaluation of the market for qualified workforce and help to increase demand for skilled workers. What was achieved within this project? Firstly, the trainers which implemented the training were trained, and you can see here actually 12 institutions, mostly high schools specialized in providing education about construction working, and similar institutions were targeted. I just got a message that my connection is slow, but I hope you can. Can you hear me? Is it working?
It's working. You're a little less clear, but all good. Go ahead.
Okay. Basically, you can see here the number of trainers which were firstly trained, so 5, 12, 6, and so on. And then these trainers provided training to the construction workers. So 330 workers in total were trained through 53 training courses which were implemented. And the conclusion was that this resulted in a higher market demand for trained professionals. It was obvious that there is a need to train construction workers, and this was quite an important result. The estimated cost to qualify a trainee, so this is based on the total project budget and effort, was about 217 euros per trainee, but the participation was of course free for all who participated in this project, because, as I said, it was financed to the European Commission within the Intelligent Energy Europe program. You can see here some photos, pictures of the trainings. So the training of trainers has been conducted for all 12 training centers, and then afterwards these training centers implemented the actual training. So the main conclusions and recommendations from this project: certification and education, which was developed under the CROSKILLS project, can definitely be used to replicate this in other countries. So it was a concept which can be easily, well, of course, replicated in other countries, but it can be also implemented at the regional level. Basically, it's a really nice example for replication. Some recommendations which were obtained not only through implementation of this project, but through the implementation of many energy retrofit of buildings, public buildings also. Basically, one recommendation is to allow the use of certified workers as a mandatory condition for public calls for energy efficiency in buildings, especially for calls co-founded or founded by the European Structural Fund. We believe that the use of mandatory certified workers would really improve the quality of the works. Then, of course, this was just one project, even it achieved important results, but there is a need for further marketing campaigns to promote the builder's profession and lifelong education and training for workers. And the lifelong learning education for professions like architects, engineers, supervising engineers of construction sites. So not just the blue-collar workers which were targeted within the CROSKILLS, but the white-collared workers need to be addressed as well. So of course, because if you want to achieve good results in energy retrofit of buildings, is the whole cycle. So it starts with the project design, which has to be properly developed, and afterwards it's about the works, but then the supervising engineer is important. So the whole chain of professionals needs to be trained. In that regard, I would like to just briefly mention an extension, continuation of this project, where actually we are partner, but also together with the Faculty of Civil Engineering, which was coordinating the CROSKILLS project. This project is called BIM-Z. It's implemented under the Erasmus program. It's a 3-year project which started November 2018. It's still ongoing. It ends in October this year, and it is about training the project designers, architects, so white-collar workers, all those which are developing the project documentation for the energy retrofit. So it's about supporting the construction industry through education and training. It's about transferring knowledge of BIM, so building information modeling systems, and NZEB to other countries as well. It's again developing learning units, implementing them. There is also train the trainer feature on this project, and the main objective should be to transfer the knowledge to at least 400 to 500 construction and architecture students regarding BIM and NZEB topics. Okay, this is the end of my presentation. I hope I fit in the time frame, and of course I'm free to answer any questions.
Thank you, Velimir. Yes, one important point of your recommendations that the required skills and the certification should be made mandatory in any public tenders and calls for proposals. I think this is a powerful motor for the uptake and the insertion of qualified workers in the construction sector. You just mentioned the BIM skills, building information modeling. For instance, the government of Norway and all the public institutions have made it compulsory and require this. And like that, they have managed to increase the use of BIM in the planning of construction in Norway radically. So the public tenders are a powerful way to require the right skill set. Now, why is your project not continued? Why did you not find any continuation after the end of the intelligent energy funding?
Well, this project was supposed to last 3 years, so it was just let's say a regular project which was implemented. But the real question is whether the market is properly valuing the qualification and the certification. and this was, if we are talking about sustainability without EU funding, then this is the key issue. So the market should be developed well enough to allow the implementation of such training on a market basis, which CROSKILLS was not. It was financed with public money, and this is all nice, but it's a complicated and a little bit difficult question. For example, in Croatia, we face quite huge challenge with the lack of skilled construction workers. A lot of them have well, simply emigrated went to other EU countries like I don't know, Germany, Ireland, Austria, and so due to better economic conditions. And then we are now even importing construction workers to do projects. There is quite a bit of quite high demand for construction works because we now have access to structural funds, and there were quite a lot of calls for co-financing of energy retrofit of buildings, especially for public buildings, and this now results even in cost of construction being increased quite considerably. We are talking about 30, 40 or more % increase before these calls were published, because there is a lack of construction workers, there is a demand for construction, and this is simply the natural result. And in this kind of market, it's difficult to enforce certification. If you're lacking construction workers, and then if you say only those who are certified can do the work, this is not, it's really difficult to impossible to implement, you know. So
Right.
it's all connected. I would say it's really a systematic challenge.
So this shows what happens if the market is short of the qualified workers, as we have just said in the introduction. So probably this is something that is can be observed in most member states. I think this is something that policy making really has to think about, because if we increase the renovation rate and we do not have it with the right skill set, the quality is poor, as you have shown at the introduction, and with this shortage, the prices go high. Okay.
Yes, and an important issue is the speed of increase. If you do it, you know, drastically, then you're not able to do it. So it has to be planned.
Exactly.
So
demand and supply has to match.
Exactly. The calls for energy retrofit should be planned like, I don't know, several years in advance, so the construction industry can have the information. Okay, in 2023 we are going to need this many workers, and the money will be there, and plan for this, and then it would work much better. Unfortunately, it's not like that at this time in Croatia. The calls are not published in advance enough for the industry to prepare itself.
Okay, Velimir, I think we can take these thoughts into our panel discussion afterwards. I thank you for the moment. There are no questions from the audience to you at this point. I think your scheme is very interesting, very replicable, and to the audience, if there is anybody who is interested in a matchmaking session to learn more in depth about this excellent and large-scale program that had a very high impact and that has a good replication potential, write to us in the chat, and we will get back to you individually after this webinar. Thank you. You can switch off your camera, Velimir. And I'm inviting Ruth to take the floor, to switch on your camera and to share your presentation, and to explain us about your PV installer qualification company. Please, the floor is yours.
Can you hear me and see my presentation?
All good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity. This presentation is from me, from Ruth, Andalusian Energy Agency, and from Laura from ECOOO. I'm representing the Andalusian Energy Agency as coordinator of the POWERTY project, and ECOOO is one of our stakeholders. During the identification of the good practices in the project, in the topic empowering, we got the training of solar photovoltaic installer for people at risk of social exclusion. And this is the good practice that we are going to explain today. Why is this happen? By one hand, the increasing number of renewable installation, especially self-consumption ones, require increasing of number of workers. By another hand, risk of social exclusion people, which are in energy poverty situation, has difficulties in entering the labor market. Then ECOOO is a non-profit renewable energy company which promote this good practice in combination with the UTE as Solar, which have a union of two insertion companies, Amoverse and El Zaguán. Then it was possible the insertion of people in situation of social vulnerability in the renewable energy and self-consumption labor market to get more just society, promoting the energy transition, sustainable, decentralized, energy qualified technical, and so on. And now, Laura, the floor is yours.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, because you can see me because my camera is broken. First of all, well, good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank the organizer for giving us the opportunity to talk about our experience working on energy transition and creating green jobs and skills. We share the work team of HAT Solar is composed of teams of officers, installers, and managers who report to the client the work as a photovoltaic installer company. However, the contracting of its services is carried out from ECOOO, which finally pays HAT Solar for its services. So it is the shim of our work. We would like to share and highlight the work experience at HAT Solar, also focusing on the aid received, as well as the type of necessary support to promote a project of this type. So, focusing on the kind of financial resources and support received to start our work at HAT Solar. So can you pass the slides, Ruth, please? Thank you. We consider that we need to have a minimum support team composed of one manager from HAT Solar, one manager from ECOOO, and one communication and sales profile supported by both organizations. We think that's essential because commercial work and attracting new projects is essential for business growth. The figure of managers allows to maintain the good coordination between teams. And what kind of public support we received? Well, since our creation, the creation of HAT Solar, we only received the support of a hiring subsidy from the Community of Madrid. And the total amount of aid received does not exceed 8,000 euros. And it's part of the aid for hiring and not for creation of new projects. That's important. Now we apply to the support of green employment system from Fundación Biodiversidad. It's a public foundation attached to the Ministry for Ecological Transition, which is still in process. But if we achieve it, the total amount of aid will not exceed 3,100 euros. Finding financing, so that's the reason why finding financing for specialized and technical training is difficult, especially in relation to PRL, that is work at height at electrical risk. And this training curriculum involves training of more than 1,300 hours. So it's a long training program. Despite this, our main barriers were the difficulty finding an officer profile with experience and vocation for training, to achieve an adequate workload that allows the full-time hiring of a team of 3 people. And that's the reason why we consider really important the figures of managers and communication supporting. It's important the commercial level. The constant technical support really necessary at the beginning of the learning stage because we receive constant doubts on the ground. So it's important to have work monitoring or remote work to support this training of installers. So it's necessary investment by engineering this kind of monitoring. It requires specialized technical training, and it's difficult to find financing, especially in relation to BRL. We are able to complete the rest of training because we can achieve a public and free training offered to inactive workers. And we consider that management support is necessary. Management support, we understand it like the company carry out invoices, purchases of electrical material, logistics, commercial. One of other barriers was we need a period of initial accompaniment is necessary in the first works by a company specialized in the sector. So that's the reason why ECOOO accompanying these solar workers at the beginning. And finally, we can see about the impact and results of solar as a good practice. Well, Solar is the first insertion company of photovoltaic installers in Spain. We are hiring 6 people in vulnerable situation with a view of to their professional training and their insertion in the ordinary market. Since creation in 2019, we increased our business from 6 photovoltaic installations in single family homes to 46 installations. The total installed power amounts to 1,000 kilowatts. More than 80% of the installation corresponds to homes for residential use, and the rest are organizations like Apascovi or Fundación San Martín de Porres, a homeless reception center. In addition of this, to the group of 3 installers, 2 managers, one for each institution, 1 communication and sales person, and 1 administration person participates in the team. We received a high degree of customer satisfaction, both in terms of the quality of the installation and for the human treatment to the team members. And this is really important because we are a social and solidarity company, so that's really important for us. And if we resume our business volume, well, in 2019, we achieved 7,275 euros, but in 2020, we achieved 62,021 euros. So it's a good increase of our business volume. We are ECOOO Revolución Solar, a non-profit cooperative that fosters citizen participation and empowerment in the field of energy. We have 16 years of experience work to design, promote, and launch projects around renewable energy. And that's the reason why we consider that there was an opportunity of continue making economy, but also making the way we consider we have to make new economy. Thank you.
And finally, can you hear me and see the presentation?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And finally, I would like to focus in the replicability and transferability of this good practice. We prepared 3 questions. What they will need to do to implement a similar training scheme, like Laura present us. We can say 2 steps. The first one was select 3 people with a medium and low medium level of qualification, which fits perfectly with the many of the profiles of the user of insertion company. So we will have the 3 people team. We remember like orange team, okay? And this orange team will receive a training specific with some compounds by some models, like I show you in the slide. More than 400 hours of training with topic like electricity, basic fundamental of electricity, electricity for building, maintain of PV solar installation, development of PV solar installation, and also prevention of occupational hazard. as work at height, electrical risk, and metal sector. Also, we need the 3 people team, the blue one. In this case, was from ECOOO and UTE Solar, composed by one manager from ECOOO, another manager from Solar, and one communication and commercial profile to support and to supervise this 3 people team, Orange One. The second question is, do you know if this good practice inspire similar initiative? I answered yes. Caritas España is a Catholic church organization, and FIDE is a Federation of Business Association of Insertion Company, and both entities are interested to replicate this good practice in Spain. And the last question is related to the expansion of UTE Solar. And the Solar is created a new team, is the red color one, composed by 3 people who develop tasks related to commercial to attract new projects, and also training to teach officers. If you remember, we have the 3 people team, the orange one, it was 1 officer and 2 assistants. And the idea is this red group is going to train officer in the orange group, always with the supervised by ECOOO and Solar. And just to encourage you, we would like to show you some pictures of the process of this good practice. Thank you very much for your attention, and I will show you there the contact for both of us for the ECOOO entity and POWERTY project. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Laura. You have already answered to all the questions that I wanted to ask you about the next steps and the expansion. Yes, and also about the content of the training. This is a very good overview in detail of the component of the qualification. I think your experience is extremely interesting because it allows the creation of a new company that is there to be not operating just for a short time, but may hopefully for decades. So this is the permanent success for an employment creation measure that is taking people into a new job that is having probably a good future prospects. And yeah, it's a little bit difficult. It takes a lot of work, but how is it, maybe a question to Laura, what could be done to incentivize more structures like yours to do similar things? Is there something that public bodies could do to help you create more such companies?
Yes, we think we need public awareness about to use the renewable energy and its promotion by public administration. That is, we think that an example of this will be the future grants to receive for energy rehabilitation. Then we consider that we help thousands of homes to install clean energy on the roofs. People here in Spain years ago were very scary about solar energy because they thought policy was going to their homes and put their solar system out. So, however, well, we don't seek so much an scalable growth of, but rather a replicability of our projects to promote local employment, giving solutions to a situation of vulnerability. But we think that maybe including among the criteria for hiring installers company in public administrations that incorporate aspects such as hearing your company, or maybe in village, as well as tax incentives to those who hire teams of installers, such as insertion social companies. That we think this could be the way to promote renewable energy, but from local companies, not only for big companies. And this is the way to generate a new way to make employment and a new way to make economy, green economy.
Well, the installers, I was thinking they're more coming in general from the local level, because and not being dispatched. So I imagine this is an employment potential also that is good in a decentralized way, and you just confirmed that. So thank you very much for sharing this experience. And if you have further questions from somebody in the audience, we are happy to relate them and to help you make contact with Laura and Ruth. Don't hesitate to leave your name, and we will take it up. Okay, so we have focused on the construction sector and on the installation of renewable energy systems. Mostly at a mid to low qualification level, and now let's turn to Nathalie, and let's hear about the master level qualification, because as Velimir said, we need to qualify along all the value chain and at all the qualification levels. And so here is fully formally accredited master that Nathalie is presenting. Two actually. Nathalie, the floor is yours. We can see your presentation. Just put it in full screen, please.
Yes.
Excellent. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Katharina. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very pleased to be here today to present you the two EUREC master programs on renewable energy. A few words about EUREC, who we are. We are an association of European renewable energy research centers. So our members are active in all renewable technologies and also on transversal issues such as grid integration or storage, for example. We provide an independent voice in Europe, and we are active in 4 different areas, which are networking and visibility for researchers and research results. We help our members with project development, and we also provide policy inputs for the European institutions. But what is of interest for you today is the coordination of 2 successful European master programs on renewables. So the European Master in Renewable Energy, a technical program for engineers specialized in one renewable technology, and the European Master in Sustainable Energy Management, a multidisciplinary program combining technical knowledge with economics and business aspects of the energy systems. As coordinator of the program, we are the first contact point for the students, for the universities, also for the companies involved in the program. We organize the application process, we facilitate the work of the universities, and we are also in charge of the communication and organization of events such as the Welcome Day and the Presentation Day. So these are the 2 events where all students from all universities in Europe meet in Brussels at the beginning and at the end of the program. Let's see a bit more details about the first European Master of its kind about renewables. It was launched in 2002, thanks to the support of Altener, and it's now self-sustaining. It was created to fill the gap between the growing industry demand for specialized renewable energy expertise and the skills that were currently available on the job market. And 20 years later, technical expertise is still very needed since the sector is constantly expanding. This program usually welcomes around 60 students per year. As you can see, this year we have a bit less, and it's due to the COVID situation. In 2015, we decided to launch a second master program called the European Master in the Sustainable Energy System Management, following the needs from the industry to have more market-oriented professionals, but who still had technical knowledge. This master is currently taught in 5 partnering universities, and we usually welcome 30 students. In this program, students can travel around Europe, and they also meet students from all over the world. You can see here the distribution, which is representative. Every year we welcome around 30 different nationalities. Here is where students can study these programs. You probably recognize some famous university logos. They are all members of EUREC and recognized at an international level for their contribution in the field of renewable energy technologies and research. And they are experts in the part they teach in each program. Both programs are structured the same way, so in 3 semesters, a core, a specialization, and a practical project. So it's 1.5 years, 90 CTS. Students must spend at least spend time in at least 2 different countries during this 1.5 years, and this allows them to make contact with a wide range of European institutes and companies involved in the field. So during the first semester, which starts in September or October, depending where they study, until January the following year, they acquire a solid basis on renewables or energy systems. Then they go to a different university, as from February to June, to specialize in one chosen topic. They can specialize in photovoltaics, in wind energy, in solar thermal and storage, ocean energy, sustainable fuel system for mobility, grid integration, sustainable energy, and ICT. You can find the whole list of specialization on the respective websites, of course. And then they arrange a project in a company or in the research centers, depending on their career perspectives. Here you can see the cost of the program. So it's different from EU or students coming from outside the European Union. So it's 8,000 euros for EU students, 13,000 for non-EU students. It's for the whole program. It's not per academic year, so it's for 1.5 years. And they usually pay in 3 installments spread throughout the academic year. But we can discuss of different payment schedules, especially when students are sponsored. Thanks to the very own structure of the programs, the students already acquire many soft skills, such as adaptability or resilience, since they must travel from one country to another, find accommodation, find their own project in at least 2 different countries, often 3 different countries in 16 months. Most of them master more than 2 languages. They're able to integrate technical knowledge with strategic and social and economic issues. With the number of different nationalities, the group work, the project work, they develop multicultural and teamwork capacities. They also have skills in analytical and research methodology. And they also have this 6 months practical experience in a company, which is valuable when you enter the professional world. They also benefit from a large network of alumni. We are approaching 1,000. Next year will be 1,000. And these alumni are now coming back to EUREC to find interns and employees. So I've selected a few profiles here, so to give you an idea of possible career paths after the programs. So you can see Sanya, who is an associate director in the Clinton Foundation in New York, Paola, working for the Spanish Ministry of Energy, Adam, working as a senior key expert in Siemens in Germany, and Virginia, head of offshore transaction support and analysis in Scottish Power in London. And I will leave the final words of this presentation to our project host, who also hired some of the EUREC students. So we have someone from DLR, the German Aerospace Center, who's saying, supplementary to their excellent knowledge base in renewable energies, EUREC students offer high-level self-organization skills and international insight few students offer other courses offer. For the DLR Institute, the European Master in Renewable Energy is an excellent source for master thesis applicants and employees. And we also have 3E, a company based in Brussels, saying that EUREC graduates have always been a success with many internships converted into permanent jobs. EUREC really provides top-notch graduates with excellent and relevant education in renewable energy. So I hope you had a good overview of the EUREC Masters, and I'm now ready to reply to questions that you might have.
Thank you, Nathalie. Well, the testimonials speak for themselves. Yeah, do you have already the people lining up when the students are being recruited, enrolled, and say, I want to have an intern this year?
Yes, yes, it's like this now.
That's great. 20 years of successful running of this this program. We have seen a very international group of students, but I noticed that you have not many students from Central and Eastern Europe. Like, do you have an explanation for that?
Well, I think the need for very skilled workers in this country is existing. I also think that students from these countries are willing to come, study, travel, take the European adventure for the programs. But I think the cost of the program is still an issue. So probably if there were some financial help for them, it would be easier.
I see. Do you have any students that come with a scholarship?
Yes, we do. We do. We have students. We have actually many students who have scholarships. Most of them from Latin America. We have the Mexican government sending us students every year. We also have some French students sponsored by FONGECIF, for example. So yes, we have students who are sponsored. We also have companies sending some employees to be reskilled. So also pay the tuition fee for their employees. So yeah, it's this is why I said that we can be flexible for the payment schedules. Like we know, for example, that the companies, they want to pay everything before the program in one payment. So these are things that we can, of course, set up easily.
I can imagine.
We can also think about some possible benefits for the company sponsoring or institution sponsoring the students. We can have visibility on our website and newsletter communication channels. So there are things that we can do.
I have been thinking it is very complex and time-consuming to set up such a comprehensive master program. I mean, it's also accredited. You need to develop curricula, not just for 400 hours, but for a whole academic year. It's worth 90 CTS. You've mentioned it. So this is not something to be replicated easily. But I think why it is relevant to present this program in this context to regional and local authorities. It is possible, absolutely, to take the shortcut and send students to this program, get them qualified with, for instance, a scholarship, let's say from Bulgaria, and the obligation then in return to go home to where they come from and work there at least for 5 years and employ the skills that they have acquired. So I think this is a good shortcut to get university level top-notch qualifications into your region without having to set up an own program. Marco, we have a question from the audience from Nathalie, I see.
Yes, Katharina, we have actually a couple of questions. The first comes from Laura Peukuri, who asks if, in your experience, are there students mainly coming directly after their bachelor degree, or your program also have people that come to enroll after having worked already after having already accumulated some work experience?
Well, we have both profiles. I would say that it's half-half, more or less. We all almost have, let's say, 50 to 60 students coming right after the bachelor, and the rest coming not for after a very long work experience. Usually it's after 3-4 years of work experience coming to us.
All right, and then the other one from Rose Power. She's well, this question is basically linked to what you were being discussing before. If you think, Nathalie, that a national, given the lack of, in many cases, of renewable energy and energy efficiency expert, if you think that national governments could and should subsidize the tuition fee, subject to the requirement that students then stay in the EU and work on renewables and energy efficiency. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's completely possible to make some regulations about scholarship if you want to implement them.
Yes, we have seen such examples from Malta. Malta being a small territory, impossible to have all the qualification programs. They dispatch students with some clauses for a return, I think. So I think this can be done. It's interesting to explore. Good. So thank you, Nathalie. And let's see from the audience in our next poll. What do you need to set up an additional training program in your region? It's a multiple choice, and you can select all that apply. What do you need most? Is it funding, qualified teachers, new training curricula, somebody to guide you who has already done it before, or are there any other barriers that are holding you back? And while we wait for the replies, I invite all the speakers to turn on their cameras. We're going into a panel discussion mode after we see the results from this poll. Lotte, results? So money is what is missing most of all. Well, with so much money being programmed to be spent on green topics, green and digitalization are the topics that are attracting the most of public funding. Isn't it possible to foresee a lift chunk for the qualification, for such qualification programs? I think that should be possible with the regional funds that are being dispersed. Qualified teachers. Okay, so this is an important thing. We have seen in Croatia, first the trainers had to be trained, and then the snowball effect could kick in. Maybe an exchange of teachers is possible here. But okay, this is maybe more done at university level. New training curricula, not so much. Guidance and some other barriers. Okay, thank you. I invite our panel to comment on these results. What do you advise regions that wish to increase their training capacities? How can they go about with the replies on the barriers that you have just seen? Just take the floor. The first who wants to speak can start.
Well,
not everybody at once.
If I may, then I wanted to leave it to the ladies, but if not, then I can take the floor.
Go ahead.
I would agree that funding is the most important, of course, that's obvious. But it's really a question of who should provide the funding for the trainings. Now, I would say there are two opposite models of energy retrofit of buildings. This is from our experience as an energy agency implementing these kind of projects. There is what you call the traditional model, where, especially if we are talking of public buildings, and this is our main focus of activity as all energy agencies, because we are founded by public authorities. So in the traditional model, the public authority first hires the project designer. then hires the construction worker, hires the supervisor, engineer, and if all goes well, the building is constructed according to a good project design, and the construction is done properly. However, there is a different model, which is basically a combination or full public-private partnership model, where the private partner basically takes all these risks. The public partner defines the services they want. So, for example, if it's an energy retrofit or even construction of, for example, new school, basically the services are provision of heating, lighting, indoor quality, everything which is needed for a school to properly function as a building. And the private partner has the responsibility to provide these services, and the private partner is paid based on the provision of services or not. Now, if this model is used, then all those risks related to bad project design, to poor construction, are allocated to the private partner, and then it's the private partner who is going to fund the training of construction workers, of trainers, or whatever is necessary to provide the services and to get his money. Mm-hmm. So this is one model which we are really advocating as an energy agency. It's not applicable to all buildings. It's not you know, like a silver bullet solution. Many smaller buildings are not appropriated because it's an economy of scale. If the investment is too small, you cannot really apply this model. It's too costly to prepare. So let's say the investment should be at least 20 million euros or something. You can aggregate many smaller buildings in one. It's then another kind of challenge. So it's not that it's really the end solution of all, but this philosophy that the risks should be allocated to that partner which is more competent to taking those risks, and the private partner is more competent to taking risks related to project design, to construction, to management of a building. This logic is really valid and should be applied in many cases. And I think if it's applied in wide enough, let's say, cases, then the market will regulate itself, and the funding will be there.
Okay.
I would like to add because POWERTY project is related to a renewable energy for vulnerable groups. So I think it's really important to focus on social aspect. I mean, related to the role of the citizens, the active role of citizens, because this is the way people look for a quality, look for a continuous training, ask for better buildings, ask for better policies. So I think funding is important, of course, I totally agree, but the focus on the citizen as the center of of everything, I think we need to dedicate more power of this. This is the only way all of us are in the same boat.
You're talking about the inclusive and for all side of the Green Deal. Yes, that we are not paying sufficient attention to while we are thinking about technology mostly. Yes, so it's good to remind us of that. Nathalie, do you have any recommendations?
I will just second the idea that a holistic view of the challenges is needed.
I would like to give a space to questions from the floor. Marco, maybe Nicolas' question first. Mike.
Sorry. So Nicholas Clark is asking, what do you think? What do you think about the potential of cooperative energy communities for the creation of jobs in the energy transition? And if you have particular thoughts on this in relation to coal regions where job losses will come from the phasing out of coal and fossil fuels.
I think it fits well with a comment from Ruth that it has to be people-centered. The renewable energy communities are such a people-centered deployer of renewable energy projects. So maybe Ruth, you want to take the first reply.
From our last interregional seminar about normative, we enjoy the presentation of RESCOP, talking about energy communities and cooperatives. We are interested on this. We think it's a tool, is a proper tool to situate the citizen in the center. To they can decide, they can be prosumer and consumer at the same time. But for example, from Spain, we have some energy communities start with the new normative, but take time, step by step. This is something really new. Everybody's talking about this, and we need learning by doing in this tool. But I think it's a really interesting challenge for skills and jobs. Yes.
Yes, because the professional energy communities, they also need managers and people who can really develop the projects. I know about renewable energy communities that are not only developing wind and solar, but also projects in the bioenergy field. And one of our comments has been from a participant that we forget to speak about the high job creation potential of bioenergy. We have not, but none of the examples selected is that. Bioenergy, especially, for instance, where a waste value chain is being built, is very high in the job creation potential. And so do you have energy communities in Croatia, Velimir?
Yes, we do. They are not quite as yet developed as those in Denmark or Germany, but we do, and it's starting. And at the moment, the law on the electricity market is under the new law is under public discussion, and there are special articles on energy community for the first time in this law, so, which is very good. So things are starting to happen. But yes, I would like to definitely agree that energy communities, but not only energy communities, all kind of citizen financing, like crowdfunding, like crowd investing. We have been involved in such projects as well as an energy agency. Such projects are very, very important for the democratization of the whole energy sector. So citizens should be allowed to act as investors. And of course, this then creates new jobs and all the good things and benefits related to that. Speaking about bioenergy, we're quite active in the bioenergy sector as an energy agency. We have a number of projects. We have really good examples of that risk-taking philosophy, which I mentioned. For example, in several schools, we have implemented projects where the private investor invested and installed a biomass boiler, and is taking care of the management and operation of the boiler, and is taking care of the fuel quality, which is a big issue in biomass, because things can really go wrong. If you install a solar collector or PV or wind power plant or geothermal heat pump, you don't have to worry basically about many things, but with biomass you have to worry about fuel quality. And then this private investor is taking care of everything and is selling heat to these schools, and it's working really good. For example, one of the things which we were really struggling is the public procurement thing. So which boiler to install, is which producer, which specifications, the project design. In this case, the public procurement was for the lowest heat price, and then the private, and we had more than one bid, and the winning bid, the private investor, he chose his own boiler. He is actually a manufacturer of wood chips in Croatia, and he had low quality wood chips, and he bought a more expensive boiler. In the end, he is able to put his lower quality wood chips in this more expensive boiler and selling heat at a lower price. And he was unable to sell this low quality wood chips because basically everybody wants the higher quality. So,
of course, yeah.
That's an important issue. Yes, biomass is really standing apart in terms of job creation, because it's the whole chain. You have to procure the biomass, you have to process it, you have to transport it, you have to store it, you have to take care of the management. It's much more work intensive, but the risks are also much more specific and problematic, so you have to take care of that as well.
Yeah. Nathalie, you have posted a link. Does it relate to this reply? Your mic is muted.
Sorry for this. It's a Horizon 2020 project on the energy transition in coal-intensive regions. And on the website, there is a best practice platform, so if it can be of interest.
That's great. Okay, let's see if we can take another question. Marco?
Well, yes, another one from Rose Power. So do the panel have any suggestion as to how we can attract suitably qualified professionals from outside Europe to increase the overall talent pool in Europe? And if so, should we have a European certification body to certify the qualifications of non-EU professionals? Any thought about this?
A brief reply and speak for your level of qualification. So Nathalie at the university level and Velimir at the blue collar level.
I will start, Velimir. It's something that is constantly discussed, and it's a dream. It would be a dream for people coordinating European programs to have this certification. It's still complicated now, but the aim, for example, through initiative like the European universities, is to reach this goal.
Velimir?
Well, in Croatia, this is already happening. We have quite a lot of imported blue-collar workers in Croatia from non-EU countries, and it's a challenge. It's a challenge. It's a difficult question, and there is no magic wand answer. You have to invest in education. You have to well, work a lot, and it's a systematic question. It's not that you can give an easy answer to that question.
I appreciate the difficulty. Yes. Okay, Ruth, I'm not sure if you have an opinion on that. You're also muted.
It works better if you turn on the microphone.
I think because the Dine and we are the expert on this topic, so I prefer don't say anything.
Okay, good. Well, I think we are already attracting a lot of workers, especially blue collar from outside of Europe. We're also attracting high students from non-European countries into our master programs, and many of them are staying. I think it's easier for the university level to ensure first they get qualified and then they get access to the labor market, whereas in the construction sector it's moving fast and qualification doesn't necessarily follow come before the contract. So I think it's two worlds. Unfortunately, we have arrived at the end of our webinar. I do not want to take more time than we have programmed from you. I would like to thank all of the speakers for their preparation, their presentations. To the audience, we appreciate we have not taken all the questions, almost all, but those who we have not replied to, we will get back to you one by one. And if it was questions to the speakers that you have formulated, we are happy to take them to the speakers and bring you their replies. So just bear with us. We will follow up definitely every thing that you have entered. Let me come back to advertising our matchmaking sessions. If any of the examples that we have presented today have specifically caught your attention and you want to dive into a deep exchange, drop us a link, a line in the question tab, and we will get back to you to follow up on that. And I would like to close with advertising our next webinar on 24th of June. It will be a thematic event of 3 hours, and we will be focusing on SME support programs for renewables and energy efficiency. So the target group is different, but we remain in the green economy and in the energy transition as most of the time in our low carbon economy topics. So thank you very much. Thank you to my team as well. Thank you for the audience for your patience, and I wish you an excellent afternoon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.